Now, let's get back into this difficulty scale. Remember me telling you it's all about difficulty, right? And I told you I'd tell you a little bit more about how they rate this difficulty, how they start selecting questions for you and sampling your knowledge based on how difficult the questions are. Their difficulty scale goes from -5 to +5. So there's 10 options. And also, actually, it goes all the way down to decimal points. So, you know, it could be a 1.2 or a 2.6 difficulty or a -3.1 difficulty. That's a very easy question on that lower end of the scale. A +4.2 difficulty. And all those rating scales were gleaned from that sampling. And they decide what difficulty is passing. Not how many questions you have to answer correct. What difficulty level do they want to see you consolidate around to decide that you've passed the test? Now, the exact difficulty level that you have to demonstrate that you can answer at is actually a fairly well-guarded secret. There's, you know, hypothesis, but we're going to put it hypothetically around 1.6. 1.6. And by the way, from year to year, that difficulty scale moves. It's based on the fact that the National Registry wants to see about 75% of the people who take the exam pass the exam. About 3 out of 4 people should be passing it. So if it gets to the point where now, instead of 75%, 77%, 78%, 80% of people who are taking the test are passing the test, that means that the educational standards have improved to the point that they can now increase that difficulty. So they'll notch it up. They'll say, okay, in 2011, we're going to notch up the difficulty baseline to 1.7 or 1.8 and bring the percentage of people who are passing back down to 75%. The opposite works as well. New care comes out in the field, new standards, new drugs and medications and interventions come out, and it takes a while for the educational standard to catch up to the National Registry test. So they see the pass rate start to drop. 73%, 72% of people are passing, and then they will go ahead and lower that standard to bring it back up, the number of people passing. That's what the standard is based on. It's not arbitrary at all. Everything about the way this test is scored is very objective. So now I'm going to throw a question at you. Let's do a sample question, and let's say just arbitrarily the first question you get on the test is a difficulty rating just a little higher than 0. It's like a positive 0.2, just a tiny bit higher than 0. They give you this question, and it's going to be from one of the 6 major categories that those questions come from, and you go ahead and you answer it, and you get it right. Boom. The next question is going to be more difficult, right? This one's going to be like a 2.1 or a 2.3 on the difficulty scale, and oh, it's something you didn't know, bang, you get that question wrong. The third question they ask you is going to be a little lower on the difficulty scale. Like, all right, it may not be in the same subject matter, but whatever subject matter it is, it's going to be a lower difficulty question. Now, this one's going to be a 0.8 on the difficulty scale, and you get that one right. You get to go back up to that 1.2, 1.3 difficulty scale. Your next question's a little bit more difficult. Boom, you get it right. Now you're on a roll. Boom, you get it right. They ask you your 6th question, and this one's hard. This one's way up there around. Now you get like a 4.3 or a 4.4 on the difficulty scale, and you get it wrong. And you go back down to 3.2 and you get it right. And then you go back up to 5 and you get it wrong. And then you go back down to 3.4. What's happening is that your knowledge level is consolidating around a certain difficulty level. And that's what the test is trying to do. That's all it's trying to do. It's trying to figure out where does your body of knowledge start to consolidate around a certain area of difficulty where the computer starts to know if I ask him questions harder than this difficulty, he gets them wrong. If I ask